Right now, Nick Pinizzato, President and CEO of the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance, is with us. Nick, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you today?
Good. Appreciate you coming on the program. Understand you probably much rather be out in the field, but unfortunately, access these days is rather limited because of the government shutdown.
It sure is, yeah. And we just wrote a letter to the president asking him to reopen those public lands because they are so important to our sporting community. And quite frankly, for a lot of fellas, that's the only way they can get out and hunt and fish. So we want to make sure those remain open.
Now, you guys call this political theater at its worst. Is it your contention, Nick, that these lands could be open right now, should be open right now, even with a partial shutdown in place?
Well, when you consider that the majority of them they don't require any staffing, there's no one there, there are no gates that have to be opened or closed. This is just either land that sits out there or waters that are easily available, and there's no reason for them to be closed, other than to just send a message that quote that everybody should suffer in some way during this shutdown, and we just think that's really unfortunate, and that's why we've called on the president to open these lands.
Yeah, and I'll be, it's funny, Nick. I was going to say I don't think the president will listen, but to be honest with you, we have seen this sort of willy-nilly reopening of stuff with little rhyme or reason. So maybe, you know what, honestly, if enough sportsmen demand that these lands get reopened, how do we add our voices to this, I guess?
Well, I think you certainly need to call your Congress people, your legislators, let them know. Like you said, willy-nilly, some of these places are open and others aren't, so it's very inconsistent, which we're also concerned about that. Say, for instance, you've been planning for a couple of years to go on an elk hunt, and you can't access that land anymore, and you didn't know that before you got out there. I mean, it's just as simple as the federal government saying, you know what, this is a difficult time in America, but because of that, we want to make sure these lands remain open to you, to hunt, hike, whatever. So we just want it to be consistent, and we want to make sure that our sportsmen have access to these areas that essentially belong to the American people.
Absolutely. And, I know that late on Friday, Nick, the North Dakota Governor's Office released word that the Fish and Wildlife Service was going to open. This was the wetland? It was a certain type of public land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. Having been a recent resident in North Dakota, I think I have an idea of what you're speaking of. I didn't see the actual release, but waterfowling in particular is a gigantic attraction in North Dakota, and I'm sure it was related to that. You lose a lot of non-resident income in that state if you shut those areas down to waterfowl hunting.
Absolutely. And Nick, any advice for sportsmen, just in terms of being able to actually get out while the shutdown has closed these lands?
I would say definitely check ahead, again, because it's so unfortunate that it's inconsistent. Try to contact that agency and see if the particular land you want to hunt is open or not. There are also, some forums and things on the Internet that you can get to. Talk to Western guides if these are lands. A lot of these lands happen to be in the West. Try to get in touch with those folks to, figure out which lands are open or not before you go out there. The last thing we want are for people to go out there and run into a surprise and have their entire excursion ruined because of this.
Absolutely. Listen, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's good talking to you, sir, and hopefully we can all get back out there soon.
I appreciate it, Cam. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick Pinizzato joined us, President and CEO of the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance.